This encounter happened about 7 months ago, and I want to share it with you. Just to clarify, M stands for entitled mother, EK for embarrassed kid, and OG for old gentleman, who was in his 60s. The kid was polite and clearly embarrassed, so this story isn't about him. Also, I'm translating this into English, so bear with me. A little backstory. About a year ago, I was diagnosed with stage 2 cancer of the nasal cavity. The tumor was quite large, but thankfully benign. To get it removed, I first had to undergo aggressive chemotherapy to shrink it. The chemo caused severe alopecia, leading to hair loss, including my eyebrows and eyelashes. Eventually, I had to go bald, but I wore a wig because I didn't want to look like a skinhead or a neo-Nazi. I'm 6'4" and pretty muscular, so I figured people might jump to conclusions. One day, after a long chemo session at the hospital, I took the bus home. There's only one bus that goes from the hospital to my place, and it was absolutely packed. Feeling terrible from the chemo, I asked a middle-aged man if I could sit. He was very understanding and gave me his spot without complaint. If you're reading this, thanks, man. 2 stops later, an entitled mother entered with her kid, who looked about 12. It took her about 5 seconds to see the bus was packed, start looking for a free seat, and then spot me. She marched over, trying to squeeze through the aisle while shoving others aside. When I saw her coming, I knew I was in trouble. She stood next to me and initiated a conversation. "Hey, could you let my kid sit down?" she demanded. "You mean me?" I replied, confused. "Who else?" she snapped. "Oh, I'm sorry, but I just got back from the hospital and "So are we," she interrupted. "My boy just broke his leg and we're coming straight from there." Her kid stood next to her, clearly embarrassed and without any support. "He looks fine to me," I said, trying to reason with her. "Look here, boy," she said, addressing me as if I were a child. "I'm 21. My kid deserves to sit down." "Madam, I just got back from a chemo session and really need to rest," I said, moving my wig slightly to reveal my bald head. That's when she lost it. "Stop making excuses and get off the FN.-ing seat. You FN.-ing skinhead piece of sen." I was baffled. I didn't know what to say. The kid was trying to get his mother to stop, and we had the attention of the whole bus. Then she grabbed me and tried to yank me from my seat. I held on tight and thankfully didn't fall. Enter OG, my savior. "Will you shut the FN.k up, you dumb cow?" he shouted. "Who do you think you're talking to?" she yelled back. "Stop assaulting other passengers, or I will be forced to step in. Also, anyone can see this dude has cancer." "No, he's just a FN.-ing skinhead. He's got no eyebrows, you twat." That seemed to really offend her. She spun around and threw a punch at OG's face. I was in shock, and the whole bus was flabbergasted. The kid probably wished he'd never been born. OG then said something unbelievable. "Okay, that does it. Harassing passengers on the bus, physical assault against a passenger, and now assaulting an officer. You're in deep trouble, lady." OG pulled out a badge and told her to stay put. He then called for backup, informing them she was being arrested. I couldn't believe it. OG was a cop. At that moment, I turned as white as a wall. The bus had just come to a stop, and she tried to make a run for it, but other passengers blocked her way. She ended up getting charged with resisting arrest. 3 stops later, a police car was waiting for her and her kid. EK apologized for his mother's behavior, and I felt really sorry for him. He wasn't a bad kid, but his mother was a nightmare. OG talked to me and asked if I wanted to press charges, which I gladly agreed to. He took my statement and was kind enough to let me handle everything over the phone, so I didn't have to go to the station for questioning. In the end, M got some jail time, about a few months, and community service. I walked away with a crazy story and the sweet taste of instant karma. Now, I'm riding the same bus home after a checkup, which reminded me of this incident. A friend sitting next to me suggested I share it here. We both couldn't believe people like her actually exist, but I guess I proved it. I should also note that the surgery went well, and I was declared cancer-free in November. My hair is slowly coming back, and I don't need to wear a wig anymore.
My dad abused me for as long as I can remember. Now, at 21, I'm in college and living away from home, but the memories still haunt me. I've been having flashbacks, some from when I was just a young girl, around 7 or 8, and others from when I was 20 and moved back home for a couple of months. I'd returned because I was roofied and raped at a rave, and I needed time to recover. Instead, during that time, my dad raped me again. I'm horrified. I don't know what to do. My nose is flattened, my jaw is uneven, and the pain is unbearable. I suffer from trigeminal neuralgia, which makes my face hurt like a 10 out of 10 most of the time. I have bald spots on my head, and I deal with pain in my hip and shoulder. It all feels connected to the constant abuse. I feel so foolish for not realizing the extent of this sooner. Most of the flashbacks involve him coming into my room and punching me in the temple, so I think he knocked me out most of the time. I remember moments that make me uncomfortable. His penis in my mouth, him being naked in front of me, or barging in while I was showering. There were times he'd say things that twisted my perception of reality. If I complained about an ailment, he'd say, "I'm sorry," as if it was his fault. I always thought he meant he was sorry my genetics caused me pain, not that he'd knocked me out and hurt me. I moved out when I was 18, but I still called him often. Growing up, I struggled to make friends. I had a few good ones, but not many. Nobody wanted to sleep over at my house, their parents wouldn't allow it. Coming to terms with this has helped me understand my life better, but it also raises questions about what my family and friends knew. My mom still lives with him, and I have no idea how aware she is of what happened. I feel like I don't even have a personality. I've been in a dissociative state for most of my life. Now, I'm facing a new dilemma. My parents bought me a plane ticket to fly back in 2 weeks for Thanksgiving with them and my brother. When they bought it 5 months ago, I told them I only wanted to stay for 3 days. My dad insisted I stay for 5 and that I leave on a specific date, even though my brother is leaving 2 days before me. That terrifies me. Should I go? I haven't seen my brother in a long time, and I miss him. I miss my mom too. I'm curious about what's going on, but I'm also scared. I don't want to relive the past, and I don't want to dissociate again. The fear is overwhelming.
I lost my best friend 14 years ago. We were both just 20 at the time, and he had recently discovered that his girlfriend was pregnant. I don't want to dive too deeply into how he passed, but it was traumatic for me. To put it simply, he died in my arms. We had been best friends since we were 7. He was the kindest person I've ever known, and I had a deep platonic love for him. Losing him the way I did really messed me up. I spiraled into a dark place and almost lost myself. It was only after I moved to a different state that I began to heal. His girlfriend was pregnant when he passed, and I wanted to be there for her, but I wasn't in the right mindset. Sadly, when their son was born, she also fell into a spiral. Without any support, she took her own life when he was about 2. I won't lie, when I heard about her death, I thought about doing the same and fell back into a dark place. After that, I tried to keep tabs on what happened to their son. My best friend's parents had disabilities and couldn't take him in, and his girlfriend's family was absent. Tragically, he ended up in foster care. That's all I knew about him until a few weeks ago. Although I often thought about him, I had put that part of my life behind me. I hadn't returned to my hometown since leaving, and with no family ties, I never felt the need to go back. Then, out of the blue, I received an email from my best friend's son, now 14. He found me on LinkedIn, and I was genuinely shocked. The email was long, but here are the key points. He received a box from his grandparents after his grandmother passed away. Inside were pictures of my best friend and me from our childhood and teenage years. There was also a note from his dad, written when he found out about the pregnancy. In it, he expressed his excitement about becoming a father and his desire to be the dad he never had. He mentioned that I would always be by his side. The son wants to meet me to learn more about his dad and hear stories from our childhood. From what he wrote, it sounds like he's had a tough upbringing, moving through several foster homes, some of which weren't pleasant. He seems eager to connect with someone who knew both his mom and dad. He left his contact details, including his phone number and where he lives. I'm ashamed to admit that I haven't responded. I'm in a good place in my life now. I have a wife and 2 daughters. It took me a long time to move past my friend's death. When I looked at the Instagram account he provided, I was struck by how much he resembles my late friend. Same facial features, blonde hair, blue eyes. It terrified me. I fear that if I respond and connect with him, it might pull me back to that dark mental space I was in after my friend's death. I feel like I have no one to talk to about this. My wife doesn't know about my best friend, let alone that he has a son. I've kept it all to myself. Part of me wants to drive to my old hometown and meet him, maybe even take him in if he'd let me. The other part wants to ignore it all and pretend he doesn't exist, leaving my past behind for good.
Been waiting for this one. My partner and I own a small company with just 8 employees, and we share a building with a daycare. Our team is made up mostly of higher-level professionals, lawyers, CPAs, and the like. Each of us has a large office, along with a few common areas, conference rooms, and a nice kitchen. Overall, we occupy about 3,500 square feet, which is a lot for just 8 people, but necessary for our work. As part of our lease, we have exclusive rights to all 24 parking spots. This detail is crucial to the story. The daycare, on the other hand, has only about 10 spots in front of their building. For a long time, parents would use our lot to drop off their kids since the daycare's lot was often full with staff cars. I didn't mind at all. We had plenty of empty spots, and it was nice to see the happy children around in the mornings and afternoons. That was until about a month ago. I started arriving a bit later, right around the daycare's drop-off time. Our parking lot became chaotic with parents and kids everywhere. So I decided to use their lot, just like they had done with ours for years. The first day, no problem. The second day, though, the manager saw me and shot me a piercing stare. By the end of the week, my car was towed. No warning, no communication from the daycare. I went over to the daycare to ask if they knew it was my car. It's a very distinctive old blue truck, after all. The manager came out and in a rude tone told me it wasn't a mistake. She said, "Unfortunately, we can't have the liability of non-staff and parents in our lot. I'm sure the parents don't appreciate having to walk further or having an unknown adult like you around." She looked me up and down, as if I were some kind of threat. "Don't you have reserved spots in the back? You should really park there and let us park here." With an eye roll, she walked off. I was furious but managed to keep my cool, especially in front of the kids. A couple of days later, I told her I wished she had come to me before towing my car and costing me $600. I asked for an apology and mentioned that since we share the back lot and parents take up most of our spots, could I park in the front lot occasionally? She flatly said no, repeating her earlier speech, though this time she didn't comment on my appearance. I left it for a week, thinking it was over. But one morning, I found myself waiting 10 minutes for parents to clear out of our lot. And who do I see? The manager, snagging a spot in my lot before I could. That's when I decided to comply with her wishes and hatched a plan. I contacted the building owner and, under the guise of compliance for a state license we were applying for, requested to have a gate installed for employee and guest access only to our parking lot. I even offered to cover the cost. The owner approved it the same day. When the gate was installed 2 weeks later, I drove in early on the first day. The chaos that ensued was absolutely worth it. From my corner window, I had a perfect view of the daycare staff trying to figure out how to get in. They pressed all sorts of keys on the gate, trying to park where they had for months. Meanwhile, their lot filled up completely. Parents started arriving, and a staff member had to stand at the gate, telling them there was no access. Their parking lot became a mess, with parents double parked, while others had to park a quarter-mile away in a lot at the park our office overlooks. I eventually walked down to give the manager a little wave before heading back to my office. She shot me a glare that made me grin from ear to ear. I later learned she sent the owner an angry email about parking rights and how it was crazy that one small office got the entire back lot. Apparently, she didn't realize we had exclusive rights to all of it. The owner mentioned that we might need to discuss the parking provision in the future, but he didn't seem too concerned about it. I still have 2 years left on my lease, with an option to extend for another 5. So, no plans on moving anytime soon from my office or my 24 parking spots. Just to clarify, this is an office building next to a park and residential homes. I'm not endangering any children. They now walk through a quarter-mile of grass and a playground to get to the daycare. There's not even a street to cross from that lot. If anything, I made the days of the employees and parents better. Finally figured out how to edit. I'm new around here. To everyone asking why I didn't tow the manager's car, 2 reasons. First, I was exhausted, working 12-plus hour days for months. That day she parked there was near the end of that stretch. Towing a car was the last thing on my mind. I just wanted to get into the office and finish my work. Second, $600 and can be a lot of money for some people. I grew up fairly poor and know how devastating a towed car can be for a family struggling month to month. Maybe another day I would have done it, but I'm glad I didn't.
I got a phone call at home from an IT recruiter. This wasn't unusual. I had interacted with countless recruitment agencies in my city. But this call was different. It was from an in-house recruiter at a tech company known for its stellar reputation and solid technology. They were a true unicorn before that term became a buzzword. The conversation went something like this. Hi, this is recruiter with Cool Tech Company. How are you today? Doing well, thanks. What can I do for you? I'm calling because Lynn gave me a copy of your resume and suggested I reach out about an open position. A standard HR call followed, where I learned they were looking for a laid Windows sysadmin for their internal IT department. This confused me. Lynn was my lead, albeit indirectly. She had sent my resume to a recruiter without my knowledge or permission. I needed to find out more. So, I called Lynn. She had just interviewed at Cool Tech Company and didn't get the job. During the rejection call, she told the recruiter, "That's too bad, but I know someone else you need to talk to. Blamdorf is better at this stuff than me, and I think he'd love working at Cool Tech Company." She sent over my resume, which she had from when she referred me for an internal position at our telco. When I asked why she did that, she simply said, "You have to trust me on this one, I can't say more." I had a phone interview with the hiring manager at Cool Tech Company. We hit it off, and he invited me for the full interview with the sysadmin team. Around this time, I received a meeting request from Jim, the IT architect who had previously tried to fire me. During the meeting, Jim informed me that Telco decided to insource all contract sysadmins and bring them on as direct employees. He handed me an offer letter, and I opened it to find a 20% pay cut from my contractor salary. Sure, there was a slight bump in benefits, but it was clear this was a pay hit. Jim also made it clear that this was a take-it-or-leave-it offer, and I would be reporting directly to him. Either of those factors would have been a deal-breaker, but I kept quiet, knowing his history. I caught up with Lynn afterward. She took one look at my face and said, "This is why I told you to trust me." I could have kissed her. A few weeks later, I went for the full interview at Cool Tech Company, which resulted in an offer that was a no-brainer to accept, even without the pay cut. I received the offer just before the insourcing was set to take effect. The next day, I walked into Lynn's cube and told her I got the job. Her face lit up with delight. "You have to let me be there when you tell Jim," she insisted. We walked over to his office together, and I broke the news. Jim looked floored and, as usual, went into argument mode. All the other sysadmins took the job, true, but 2 quit within 2 months because they didn't have the head start I did. "You're making a big mistake, and why would that be? Do you think that little company is going to last?" They did. The problem was that due to the planned insourcing, there was no way to continue paying me past the end of that week, as Telco's contract with the outsourcer was expiring. Enter Marie, Jim's boss, with whom I had a great relationship. I felt bad about leaving her in a bind, as IT operations at corporate HQ was her responsibility. My backup had quit a month earlier for unrelated reasons, so I was leaving her with no email server support and only a day to figure out continuity. Marie called me into her office after Jim had left for the day. I explained that I was already in the interview process when Jim made his offer. The pay cut made it a no-brainer to continue my job search. Marie looked stunned and said, "Pay cut? You all were supposed to be kept at parity." Later, I learned from Lynn that Jim hadn't relayed that instruction to HR when they prepared the offer letters. They set the offers at what they deemed market rate, which resulted in a substantial pay hit. I never found out if he did that on purpose, but given his past complaints about our salaries, I wouldn't be surprised. Despite Marie upping the offer to match my current pay and promising I'd report to her instead of Jim, I still declined. My new job offered much more long-term opportunity. I accepted the job at Telco just long enough to work out my notice period. HR was very confused during my exit interview when they realized I had only been with the company for 9 working days. Incidentally, I ended up staying at Cool Tech Company for over 8 years. It was the best career move I ever made. My only regret was not being able to get Lynn a job there. On the bright side, Marie stepped in and stripped Jim of all supervisory responsibilities over the sysadmins, relegating him to a strict technical role. He lasted only a few months after that before leaving for a much smaller company.